Iran's newly appointed supreme leader, Ayatollah Mojtaba Khamenei.
At the moment, Mojtaba is not promising that, so I'm sure there's a lot of worry and concern that the war under him might just continue.
For years, Mojtaba Khamenei stayed out of sight, yet close to power. He held no official title, but his influence ran deep inside Iran's system. Known as his father's quiet enforcer, he controlled access, decisions, and loyalty.
We're seeing, in addition to those intercepts, as we're seeing fragments falling to the ground, it's like a deadly fireworks display over Tel Aviv.
Now, as the spotlight shifts, his rise pulls back the curtain on a hidden life, one shaped by secrecy, strategy, and whispers of control that were never meant to surface. Let's explore what life has looked like for Mojtaba Khamenei. From humble roots to maximum power, power does not always begin in luxury. Sometimes it starts in silence, in small rooms, and in simple meals. That quiet beginning did not belong to one man alone. It shaped the world around him. To understand Mojtaba's rise, we must first look at the structure built by Ali Khamenei, because the father's power created the foundation for everything that followed. The man who would become one of the most powerful figures in Iran was born into humble conditions. Ali Khamenei was born in 1939 in Mashhad, a major Shia religious city in northeastern Iran. His childhood was shaped by simplicity and strict religious values. At times, dinner was only bread and a few raisins. His father, Javad Khamenei, was a respected cleric. He lived a strict life, as expected from a religious scholar. The family home was small, measuring only 65 square meters. It had one room and a dark basement. There was little space and even less comfort. This environment taught discipline and sacrifice. It also shaped his understanding of loyalty to faith and authority. Years later, that early life would stand in sharp contrast to the level of influence he would hold. The boy who once lived on basic meals would eventually oversee enormous state resources. The making of a leader. Power is shaped slowly, lesson by lesson, until it feels natural. Although Ali Khamenei publicly criticized Western culture during his political rise, he privately read Western literature with interest. One book stood out to him. It was Victor Hugo's Les Miserables. He was drawn to its themes of struggle, injustice, and revolution. The story connected social hardship with the idea of change, and that message stayed with him. His personality was not limited to politics or books. He became known for collecting eyeglasses and walking sticks. Reports say he owned many of each. These details added to his unusual public image and made him stand apart from other clerics. His education followed the traditional religious path. He began studying the Quran at the age of 4. He continued his training in religious schools in Mashhad and later in Najaf. These early years shaped his discipline and worldview. In Qom, he met Ayatollah Ruhollah Khomeini, the future leader of the 1979 Islamic Revolution. That meeting marked a decisive shift in his journey. Family influence also mattered. His mother was educated and encouraged him to learn beyond religious texts. She introduced him to Persian history, literature, and art. This wider education strengthened his understanding of Iranian identity. It gave him a cultural foundation, alongside his religious training. Over time, this combination of faith and culture expanded his reach. It helped him connect with different groups within society. His background was not accidental. It was carefully formed through study, mentorship, and ideology. And as his influence grew within the system, it began to shape the direction of power itself, setting the stage for what came next. The family behind the power. Behind the public speeches and political authority, his private life remains carefully guarded. Despite his high profile, very little is known about his family. In 1964, after returning to Mashhad from his religious studies in Qom, Ali Khamenei married Mansoure Khojaste Bagharzadeh. Their marriage marked the beginning of a life that would blend politics, faith, and secrecy. There are almost no public photographs of her. Many people inside Iran would not recognize her face. In a rare interview, she explained that from the early days of their marriage, they discussed the real possibility of his arrest under the Shah's government. She understood that she was marrying someone deeply involved in a revolutionary movement. She saw her role as providing stability at home. During his periods of imprisonment and political activity, she maintained the household and supported the family. Together, they had 6 children. They have 4 sons named Mostafa, Mojtaba, Masood, and Massam, and 2 daughters named Hoda and Boshra. Among their children, Mojtaba Khamenei has attracted the most attention. At 57 years old, he is widely viewed as a figure with growing influence. Unlike his siblings, he has been carefully positioned within Iran's political and security networks. He has built strong connections with the Islamic Revolutionary Guard Corps and conservative institutions. Much of his work takes place behind the scenes. For many outside Iran, his name is unfamiliar, yet his influence is widely discussed inside the country. The family story is not only about unity. Some relatives have taken different political paths. His younger brother, Ali Khamenei, became a reformist cleric and served in parliament. He has publicly supported reducing the power of the supreme leader. This created tension between political loyalty and family ties. Even the next generation remains largely private. His grandchildren are rarely mentioned in public records. Some extended family members are reported to live abroad, including in Paris, while the immediate family remains in Iran. And within that quiet circle, influence continues to move carefully. The shadow network. Power does not always stay in the open. Sometimes it moves underground. For years, many theories claimed that beneath Tehran, he built what intelligence sources described as the Arc of Power. It was said to be a large tunnel network with advanced design and strict security. According to these reports, it connected residential areas directly to Revolutionary Guard headquarters and military airports. The tunnels were reportedly wide enough for armored Mercedes vehicles to travel at high speed. This created a hidden transportation system. It allowed movement across Tehran without appearing on the surface. Everything was designed for speed, secrecy, and control. But the tunnels were only one part of the system. Intelligence analysts also referred to something called the Ghost of Tehran protocol. Under this method, high-ranking officials who needed secret meetings were often blindfolded during the entire trip. They were picked up by specialized vehicles or buses. The routes changed constantly. The journey followed a complex pattern. By the time they arrived, they did not know their location. This strategy had one clear goal. Even trusted advisors could not reveal his position under pressure. They did not know where they had been. Secrecy became part of the structure itself. Another reported feature was a private train system described by intelligence sources as a stealth train. From the outside, it looked like a normal passenger train. Inside, it was said to contain heavy armor and electronic systems designed to disrupt radar detection. This allowed long-distance travel between major cities such as Mashhad without easy tracking. This network reflected how he viewed modern conflict. He understood that in any major confrontation, he could become a primary target. Security was not optional, it was essential. So layers of protection were built around movement itself. The system aimed to prevent tracking from land, air, or satellite. Yet even the most complex network depends on trust. And in a world built on secrecy, trust can become the weakest link. The day everything changed. One explosion changed the course of a lifetime. June 27, 1981, became the turning point that transformed Ali Khamenei into a leader shaped by fear and constant security. On that day, he narrowly survived an assassination attempt that influenced every major decision he made for the next 45 years. He was speaking at a mosque in Tehran when a bomb hidden inside a tape recorder detonated near him. The blast was extremely powerful. It permanently paralyzed his right arm. It also damaged his vocal cords. The injury left him with a strained and distinctive voice that later became widely recognized. But the physical wounds were only part of the impact. The psychological effect was far deeper. The attack was carried out by a radical organization. This opposition group had turned to armed violence in its conflict with the Islamic Republic. For Khamenei, the message was clear. Political enemies were willing to use extreme methods. The location made the event even more disturbing. It happened inside a mosque, a place considered sacred and secure for any religious leader. If safety could be breached there, then no place would feel fully protected. The sense of vulnerability became permanent. 2 months later, the same radical organization carried out another major bombing. This time, President Mohammad Ali Rajai and 4 senior officials were killed. The leadership faced a wave of shock and fear. The environment grew tense and unpredictable. From that point forward, survival became central to political life. Leaders understood that holding power also meant becoming a target. Security was no longer optional, it was essential. The assassination attempt also reshaped his public image. His paralyzed arm became a visible reminder of the attack. Supporters viewed it as proof of sacrifice for the revolution. Over time, that injury became part of his identity, and that symbol would follow him into every stage of his rise. The empire behind the curtain. While publicly preaching modesty and rejection of wealth, the reality told a different story. Behind the speeches and religious messaging, Ali Khamenei was widely reported to control enormous financial power. Some estimates placed his influence over assets between $95 and $200 billion. That figure placed him among the most financially powerful leaders in the world. To understand the scale, the amount reportedly exceeded the wealth of many global billionaires. It was also comparable to the annual budgets of several countries. Yet, he did not receive a publicly disclosed salary as supreme leader. Officially, his position was meant to rely on donations and religious contributions. So where did the money come from? A major source was an organization known as Setad, officially called the headquarters for executing the order of Imam Khomeini. On paper, it appeared to be a government institution managing abandoned or disputed assets. In practice, reports described it as a vast financial network under his influence. Setad was said to control holdings across major sectors of Iran's economy, including oil, real estate, construction, mining, and industry. Setad was only part of the structure. Another major entity was the Mojtaba Foundation, originally established after the 1979 revolution. It expanded into hundreds of factories, agricultural operations, construction firms, and commercial enterprises inside and outside Iran. If you've made it this far, please hit the like button. It really helps the channel. Holy wealth, hidden power. Power hides best behind something sacred, and here it wears the mask of charity. One of the most influential institutions is Astan Quds Razavi. It manages the Imam Reza Shrine in Mashhad, one of the most important religious sites in Iran. But this is not just a place of worship. It controls vast land, major businesses, and deep financial assets. Its reach stretches across the city where it all began. On the surface, these organizations are presented as charitable bodies. They claim to serve the public and protect religious values. But critics describe something very different. They point to a powerful economic network operating with limited oversight and almost no transparency. Because of their religious status, these institutions are rarely questioned. Independent audits are restricted. Detailed financial records remain out of public reach. What happens inside stays hidden from the people outside. Meanwhile, everyday life tells another story. Ordinary citizens continue to face economic pressure. Sanctions and internal challenges have strained wages and living conditions. The gap between public struggle and institutional wealth has become impossible to ignore. This system does not stop at national borders. Financial power flows outward. It connects to regional alliances and long-standing conflicts. Groups like Hezbollah in Lebanon, Hamas in Gaza, the Houthis in Yemen, and militias across Iraq and Syria are often linked to this broader network of support. What appears as faith on the surface moves like strategy underneath. And the deeper you look, the harder it becomes to separate belief from control. Power without limits. Power can look ordinary from the outside, but inside the system, it operates on an entirely different level. Many people believe they understood the influence of Ali Khamenei. In reality, his authority extended far beyond what critics described. He did not simply lead Iran. His role placed him above the normal structure of government in practical terms. In effect, he controlled the executive, legislative, and judicial branches. The president, often seen internationally as the head of state, functioned under his authority. Major policy decisions required his approval. International agreements, military actions, and strategic directions moved forward only after his consent. His power extended beyond formal institutions. He served as commander-in-chief of all armed forces, including the regular military and the Islamic Revolutionary Guard Corps. He oversaw intelligence agencies and national security bodies. He held the authority to declare war or approve peace. He also had the ability to appoint and dismiss judges, media leaders, and senior religious figures. Across the country, thousands of positions were influenced through his office. Reports estimate that around 2,000 representatives operated within government and military structures. These individuals were not symbolic advisors. In many cases, they had significant authority. They could review decisions, influence policy, and report directly back to him. Power without exit. Some systems bend under pressure. This one locks tighter. What made this structure so formidable was the absence of real accountability. In most countries, leaders answer to elections, institutions, and public scrutiny. Here, those limits barely existed. There was no clear path to remove Ali Khamenei from power. His authority was protected by law and reinforced by religion. That combination changed everything. Power was not just political. It was presented as something higher, something untouchable. Experts often describe this kind of system as a personal rule. Authority flows through one individual, not through balanced institutions. In this case, that control was wrapped in religious legitimacy. Supporters did not just see a leader, they saw a figure with spiritual authority, someone whose position carried deeper meaning. That belief created a powerful shield. Challenging leadership was not only political opposition, it could be seen as crossing a line far more dangerous. The impact of this concentration of power reached far beyond one office. Decisions made at the top shaped military strategy, economic direction, and internal security. Regional conflicts were influenced, alliances were built and sustained, entire policies shifted based on a single approval. Inside the country, the effects were just as heavy. Control over institutions meant control over outcomes. From law enforcement to media influence, the system moved in one direction. When power gathers in one place, it does not just lead, it defines reality for millions. And once a system like this is fully in place, it rarely loosens its grip without a fight. Family versus power. Power at home turned colder than power in public. Inside the family, loyalty was not expected, it was enforced. The story of Ali Khamenei shows how far that control could go. He was not an outsider. He was a respected cleric and a known political figure. During the Shah's era, both brothers were arrested. They shared prison, danger, and the same revolutionary dream. Then everything changed. Hadi joined the Association of Combatant Clerics, a group that supported limiting the supreme leader's power. That single move turned him from brother to threat, and threats were not tolerated. The response came in public. During a speech, members of the Basij militia reportedly attacked him. It was not hidden, it was meant to be seen. The message was simple: blood does not protect you. The pressure only grew. Media networks aligned with the system began tearing down his reputation. His newspaper was shut down. Allies disappeared. One by one, doors closed. Surveillance followed him everywhere. A once powerful figure faded into silence. Then came the story of his sister, Badri. During the Iran-Iraq War, when the country was under attack, she made a personal choice. She left Iran to join her husband in Iraq, a dissident cleric living in exile. That decision erased her. Her name was removed from official records. On paper, she no longer existed. When she returned, there was no welcome, only control. She was placed under house arrest and cut off from public life. The pattern did not stop there. During the 2022 Women Life Freedom protests, Farideh Moradkhani spoke out. She criticized the system openly. The response was swift. She was sentenced to 15 years in prison. In this system, power does not stop at politics. It reaches into bloodlines, into homes, into silence. And once it turns inward, no one is truly safe. A rule of fear. Control does not always roar. Sometimes it tightens quietly until no one dares to breathe wrong. While the world fixated on nuclear talks and regional conflicts, something far more controlled was unfolding inside the country. It stretched across nearly 4 decades. It was not argued in public. It was enforced behind closed doors. The numbers speak first. Under Ali Khamenei's leadership, tens of thousands faced punishment tied to political activity. In many places, these actions would barely count as minor offenses. Here, they carried serious consequences. But punishment was only the visible layer. Beneath it sat a much larger system. Arrests, detentions, and long prison sentences became common for those who spoke out. Reports from human rights groups describe prisons marked by harsh treatment, including physical abuse and psychological pressure designed to break resistance. Then came 2009. The Green Movement filled the streets with millions protesting a disputed election. For a moment, the silence cracked. The response came quickly. Demonstrations were shut down, arrests followed in waves. The message landed hard and stayed there. Years later, 2022 pushed things further. The Women Life Freedom protests spread across the country. This time, the reaction was even more intense. Reports indicated that more than 500 protesters were killed. Live ammunition was used, communication was cut. The outside world saw less, but inside, everything changed. Fear moved into everyday life. Conversations became careful. Classrooms grew quieter. Workplaces turned tense. Trust between people began to fade. Control no longer needed to show itself constantly. It was already understood, and when fear becomes routine, silence does the rest of the work. The rise of Mojtaba Khamenei. Power in Iran did not shift quietly. It moved through a formal decision inside the country's highest clerical body. After the assassination of Ayatollah Ali Khamenei, the Assembly of Experts met to select a successor. Mojtaba Khamenei, his son, emerged as the leading candidate during deliberations held in early March 2026. The Assembly is constitutionally responsible for choosing the supreme leader when the position becomes vacant. Multiple international outlets reported that Mojtaba Khamenei was chosen through a decisive vote and announced as the new supreme leader on March 9, 2026. These reports state that the decision followed meetings among senior clerics tasked with evaluating potential candidates. In this process, the Assembly reviews eligibility in secrecy and then confirms the final selection. The appointment marked a historic moment. It was described as the first time since the 1979 Islamic Revolution that leadership passed directly from father to son. Supporters framed the decision as a move to preserve continuity and stability during a period of national crisis. Following the announcement, key institutions quickly expressed support. Reports indicate that the Islamic Revolutionary Guard Corps and senior political leaders pledged allegiance to the new supreme leader. Public statements emphasized unity and national strength at a sensitive time for the country. Mojtaba Khamenei, 57, has long been known for maintaining a low public profile. He previously worked behind the scenes in his father's office and built relationships within conservative clerical circles and security institutions. His background includes religious study in Qom and years of political involvement away from public office. The decision has also sparked debate about succession, legitimacy, and the future structure of leadership in Iran. Some reports noted that discussions around his appointment intensified after the leadership vacuum was created. Others highlighted that the Assembly's vote followed constitutional procedures for selecting a new leader. With the transition complete, Mojtaba Khamenei now stands at the center of Iran's political and religious authority. His selection represents both continuity and change. And as the country faces internal and external pressure, the impact of this decision continues to unfold. The story does not end with headlines or speeches. It lingers in the shadows around power, influence, and silence. Behind closed doors, decisions shape millions of lives. Mojtaba Khamenei remains a name wrapped in speculation and strategy. And in a system built on control, the next chapter is never far away. The real question is what comes next.